this and that and what the fuck else, episode 144. Title of this one is again, Sunday is Funday. And the previous one I did got some good feedback and people seem to enjoy it. So this one here, yes, it is serious news. Yes, it is not lies, it's not fiction, but it is the type of thing that can only make you smile or laugh out loud. Some of the shit is hilarious. Now, I'm working on adapting the programs that I'm doing a little bit. So there are some things that will change in the next days or so. I'm not going to change the formats too much, but I'm going to work a bit on the content and then expand maybe on having one or two additional, let's call it more, editions. Because it's difficult for me to keep up with the news in 20-25 minutes because there are many things that happens and I have to talk a little bit more about some things, and you can see now some of the programs are going over 20 minutes, are going to 25, there was one of 31 minutes. I don't really want to exceed 25 minutes. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot of things happening, and before I start with the fun stuff, Putin issued, he gave an interview to a journalist, and he mentioned that Russia is moving tactical nuclear weapons into Belarus. Now the West should take note of it. And what was interesting for me is he said clearly, these nukes does not become the property of Belarus, it is the property of Russia. But I'm doing what the Americans do, put it in Belarus. They put it all over the world. So now Russia is also placing outside of Russia, but still under Russian control. The Americans is cruising for a bruising. Listen to what I'm saying. Now let's fire off. For those of us that live in Africa, this one will be very familiar. It's a familiar sight. Look at how that combi is loaded. Only in Africa. Moving day in Africa. Everything keeps going right. Toyota. And then we get to something a little bit serious. Yeah, but you must think about it. This is how the UK brought democracy to Iraq. There was an article in declassified UK.org. BP extracted oil worth £15 billion after British invasion. Despite UK ministers denying the war was about oil, the flagship British company, reaped a bonanza upon its return to Iraq. And John Pilger says, remember Blair's denials that the invasion of Iraq was about oil? Matt Kennard of the excellent Declassified describes Britain's massive theft of oil from stricken Iraq, the antithesis of Friedland-style journalism. There it is. So the Brits are also stealing oil. And then here's another thing on this democracy topic. It wasn't all about oil. And look at that. And I'm telling you, I've seen many images of various countries in the Middle East where the Americans were taking the gold from those countries. What is that? That is fucking looting. And then we get to this one. Now this is actually very serious, but it's ridiculous and it's crazy at the same time. Scoop. Turkey and Hungary not invited to Biden's big democracy summit. The Biden administration is inviting around 120 countries to join its summit for democracy next week, but two of its NATO allies are not getting a call. Turkey and Hungary have been left off the invitation list for the major summit, which Team Biden bills as one of its hallmark foreign policy initiatives, meant to shore up democracies worldwide and staunch the rise of autocracies. The spurning of two NATO allies, confirmed by 3 US officials who spoke to AFP, reflects a mounting concern with a degree of democratic backsliding in Turkey and Hungary, even though Washington is relying on both to support the West's strategy against Russia. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has consolidated power and dismantled elements of the country's democracy. Hungary, under Prime Minister Viktor Orban, has alienated itself within the European Union and NATO for its own democratic backsliding and Orban's close ties with Russia, even after the start of the SMO. Amazing? Those are the two leaders that don't dance to the tunes that the EU and NATO and America plays. Now all of a sudden they're no longer democratic. Hypocrites. And then we get to Borrell. This is in France. And this is part of Borrell's garden. Look at that garden. Look at that garden. It's absolutely splendid to witness the transformation that Paris has undergone since the election of Emmanuel Macron. How beautiful it has become. Look at that. That is Borrell's garden. And this one, from the Telegraph, EU could threaten to sanction washing machine trade helping Russia fix its army. Diplomats monitoring consumer goods flowing into Moscow have discovered an alarming uptake in items used to repair tanks and drones. And this is from that Ursula von der Crazy. She made those comments that the Russians are stripping fridges and washing machines to build their missiles and maintain their airplanes. Crazy. But they think it's serious. The world is laughing at them. And then we get to this, and this is a screamer. Kirby, LGBTQ plus rights are a core part of our foreign policy. What the fuck is that? A core part of their foreign policy. These gender confused fuckers and mentally disturbed idiots and immoral cretins reckons LGBTQ plus rights are a core part of America's foreign policy. America, where the hell did you dig these people out? And more on the gender. Jill Biden gave a speech and she said, every little girl must know that her future can be anything she wants it to be. And then Kat Turd remarked, until she grows up to get crushed by men competing in her female sporting events. How true is that? And then the next image, if you're sensitive, sorry, but this is what it is. Look at that. Look at those creatures in that picture. And the heading says, the Olympic hand job team. And the shit from America just does not stop. Look at these. Look at all these powerful women. Everything you see there claims to be a woman. Well, I'm a boer from South Africa. To me, there's just a lot of mental disturbed cretins that I will not associate with at all. But if you think it's a woman, that's your business. And then this one. Italian Women Indoor Track Championship was won by transgender Valentina Petrillo, according to the media reports. This is already the 8th title of the 49-year-old runner. In addition, a new record was set at the competition. However, Petrillo is a biological male. With these results, he wouldn't even qualify for the boys' races. And this is how women are being abused and bullied and denied the honor that they deserve in their sports. Because mental disturbed administrators is allowing dick carriers to compete against women. Shame on you. And then here's a little bit of humor. And the poster says, we are so screwed. Look at the top image. Looks like Biden and Trudeau is going to go for an open mouth kiss any moment. And at the bottom, two men interacting. Think about it. And this one was so funny when I saw it. And although, despite of what I said in the beginning, this is a joke. This is not true. Japanese scientist cloned Vladimir Zelensky. It turned out that the recent visit to Kiev by Prime Minister Kishida was associated with a collection of biomaterials from the Ukrainian president. The experiment cannot be called a success. Almost immediately the clone became addicted to drugs. We realized this when he ransacked our chemistry labs. In addition, the clone began to continuously demand money from the employees of the center. He had to be kicked out into the street where he began to beg, said Atsu Ogura, a professor at the Riken Institute. How's that? Now the following one. This is hilarious. The Speaker of the Lithuanian Parliament called God's help to Russia unacceptable. Putin has weaponized God. During a meeting with Patriarch Bartholomew Constantinople, Speaker of the Lithuanian Parliament, Victoria Nielsen, lamented that God covers the imperialist aspirations of the Kremlin regime. Therefore, it's completely unacceptable to us, the inhabitants of the city, and the descendants of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, when God covers the imperialist aspirations of the Kremlin regime. How is that? What can you say? Mentally disturbed. And we're not done in Lithuania. Listen to God and Callas. This is a cat. This chick wants to give nuclear weapons to Ukraine and she wants NATO to get involved directly in Ukraine. Now listen to what she's saying now. This is, I thought in South Africa we had an IQ 70 problem. Shit. Seems the Baltics are not in a different class. The Prime Minister of Estonia asked the Russians to take anti-Russian sanctions more seriously. The approval of each package of sanctions against Russia is a complex process, which includes all EU members. It takes weeks, months to approve their new sanctions. Nevertheless, the Russians allow themselves to joke on the internet about each new package of sanctions. Openly mock our work. I really ask them to take this seriously and show at least some respect. Russians, please respect the work of these lovely people. And then there must be a meme. And this is quite a serious meme. It's okay for you to believe what you believe. It's not okay for you to demand others believe the same way. That is big words. And all of us should take note of that. And then there's another one that will make you smile. The Italian newspaper Liberto proposes to rename Mariupol to Putingrad and claims that this will be turned into a garden city and the capital of Novorossiya. How's that? And I actually like it. That will be a good thing if they rename Mariupol to Putingrad. Yeah, the West is going to go bananas. And here is some graffiti from Moscow. Moscow got new graffiti, the sun rises here. Look at that. It says a lot. I don't know what the hell it says there in the text, but that's Russia and China shaking hands. I like it. And this one, serious but hilarious. The United States has imposed sanctions on the aircraft used by Lukashenko. The US Department of Treasury. What do you know? And another sanction. I've got a question. Does those fuckers in the shithouse actually know who the hell they have sanctioned and which countries have they sanctioned? And do they have a control list of all the sanctions? Because there's basically not a country that hasn't been sanctioned, and it seems to me there's also not an official in the rest of the world that has not been sanctioned. They are fucking sanction crazy. It is ridiculous. And then they are astonished that the rest of the world is creating their own financial systems outside of the West. They have to do it because of this sanction madness. And then we get to Turkey, and this was quite interesting. The leader of the Turkish Motherland Party, Dogu Perinçek, announced his intention to withdraw from NATO in case he wins the upcoming presidential elections. He attributed it to the fact that the alliance poses a threat to the country. That is quite interesting. But to me, I don't think this guy doesn't have a chance, but to me it's interesting that there are more and more voices from these countries that are turning against Western institutions. And we stay in Turkey. Erdogan said he had discussed with Putin the possibility of processing Russian grain into flour in Turkey for delivery to countries in need. And just to mention, Turkey has got massive milling facilities, and most of the grain from the Ukraine came to Turkey, was milled and then distributed into Europe as flour. And then from the UK, British Pakistanis are raping white girls and we must face up to it. And I've handled this in another Skidmark of how the women in Britain is being abused by these immigrants, and then the British court system reckons they cannot deport them back to their countries because as rapists, as sentenced rapists, they will be dealt with harshly in their countries but the British woman must take it so that the British government can appear to be humane. And more from the UK, and this one made me laugh. Exclusive. Britain would need 10 years notice from Vladimir Putin to be able to repel Russian invasion. Ex-general says that nation's military used to be ready to respond within 4 hours before decades of cuts. How's that? And they're looking for shit with Russia, but this ex-general reckons Russia would need to give them 10 years notice if they want to attack them. Good luck with that one. This one is serious but also funny. Ukraine labels the Austrian bank sponsors of war. And I have handled this bank, Raiffeisen, in a previous Skidmark. The banking group said they're not going to pull out of Russia. Ukraine's National Agency on Corruption Prevention has included Austrian banking group Raiffeisen in its list of international sponsors of war. According to an agency statement on Thursday, the designation is due to the continued operation of the European Bank in Russia and to its official recognition through its representative office of the Donetsk People's Republic and the Lugansk People's Republic. How the fuck is that? And this is a contradiction in terms. Ukraine's National Agency on Corruption Prevention. How's that? We all know the truth around that. And then we get to the US. And although this is serious, I found it funny and it made me laugh. US fears a war-weary world may embrace China's Ukraine peace bid. US left on the sidelines as China-Russia brofest cements ties. Some uncomfortable realities of Xi's visit to Putin in Moscow. There's some Americans that are beginning to understand that the grip is slipping. And then we get to this one, and it made me just smile. And I included here just for you to also laugh. Ukraine resorts to cardboard combat drones. Ukrainian forces are using Australian drones made from cardboard and rubber bands during the conflict with Russia, Melbourne's 3AW says. At least 100 cheap flat-pack drones made by Melbourne company are supplied to Ukraine monthly. The drones were supplied to Ukraine for humanitarian purposes, like supply deliveries. Still, according to the Ukrainian ambassador to Australia, the cardboard UAVs are already being used as on lethal missions. Well, there you have it. The Ukrainians has got cheap drones. And then we get to that what a fuck moment. You just have to look at the image, shake your head. The End of Wokeness posted this on Twitter and he said, Lord help us. Now look on the left and then look on the right and come to your own conclusion. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for your support, and just remember, I try to respond to all the comments, but guys, you have no clue what the channel is doing to comments. I can see in my management panel that there's 9 comments on a video, and then I get to that video and no comment shows. Or there was a reply, and next to the reply it says 2 or 3 or 4, and I click on the button so it open, nothing, absolutely nothing shows. So if I miss your comment, I say sorry, but it's not done on purpose. I try my best to respond. Thank you for all your support. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share this thing. And if it made you laugh, send it to somebody that needs a laugh. Somebody that wants to laugh about reality. Good night.